Okay, so today, the first one, I'm just going to do something simple. This could be a topper for a cake for Mother's Day. It can just be for spring, it could be for birthdays, what have you. But I have this three-dimensional basket, which is a candy mold. Okay, it's 2 pieces. And there's 2 ways you can actually put this together. You can actually clip it together like this and then cut a hole in one part and fill it all in one. Or you can do them separate. I recommend that you actually do separate pieces. You want to fill it with, this one I actually filled it with this green chocolate. This one I used just the white chocolate. But the thing is, because this is such a big area and this isn't, I find that this cracks a lot. So what I ended up doing is in separate pieces, because this doesn't take as long to chill. And if chocolate's in the freezer too long, then it can crack on you. This can be either a solid basket or it can be kind of, hollow inside. But all you do basically is you fill up the basket part and you want to tap it on the counter like this and it gets the air bubbles out. Okay, you put it in the freezer and you have to kind of prop it up on something so it doesn't spill, because that would be a big mess. And just if you want it hollow, then what you do is you let it stand there for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then you pull it out, and then you have your little bowl of chocolate, and you actually pour out what's on the inside. And then go like this to spread it all around again, and then put it back in the freezer. It should pop out when it's ready. Okay. Then for these, the handles, you want to make sure that those are solid, because you need those to be solid. So you fill that all the way up. What I had to do is, because can you imagine what happens here is it all runs down here, right? So if you can put a piece of fondant here, just kind of stick some fondant there, and then it basically blocks it, and then you can fill in those areas.
So you attach it afterwards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can actually see on here, this one is the one that, I did and it kept breaking, but I just saved it so I wouldn't have to make another one. But here, you can see like on the side here, how it's a separate piece that's been attached. Okay.
But you did a wonderful job.
Well, thank you so much. That's just so nice of you. Okay, so to put this together, the easiest way, so like I said, most of the time the handle wouldn't be there, but the easiest way, and this one's solid, but it wouldn't matter if it's solid or not, is that you want to take both pieces, and if you have a warming tray, you put both pieces on the warming tray like this. Warm in. And hopefully you can pick them up without it sticking, and then you want to put them together, and you kind of have to hold on to it and then kind of clean up those edges like so. It's kind of a bummer if you do it at a different angle. Okay, now on this one too, sometimes now it's not totally going to be set, but sometimes the bottom is a little bowed, it's not totally flat. So after this is all glued together, I take it and I go back on here again, and I go like that to flatten the bottom. Okay, and at this point, if you want to put it on a board or something, this is a good time to do it, because that chocolate will make it stick. Okay, so then you can color it different ways. I don't like to just do the chocolate by itself. I like to give it, more color than that. So I just use kind of some pink dusting powders and stuff here. I'm going to switch over to this green one because I wanted it to be more like really into the shabby chic stuff right now. Well, I always have been, but it's kind of a craze right now in cake decorating and stuff. So this is just the green chocolate here. First thing I want to do, let me turn it. There we go. See how I ended up, I put like this little scroll on here. So what I did is I mixed some fondant with this. So I have this mold right here. And this mold was a little bit long, so I end up only using part of the mold. So you don't always have to use the entire piece of the mold. So the closest fondant color to this is the pastel green. So I just take some of my pastel green, and you just kind of want to roll it into a cord and press it in, and I only need this middle area. Okay, so press it back and forth, back and forth. And this one's pretty detailed, so most of the time this is one that does go into the freezer. But if you're using this middle part, it'll usually come out. So I flex the mold and very gently bring that out. Like so. And then we'll take a little shortening. We don't want to use water because water and chocolate doesn't really, stick that well. So if you use a little bit of shortening on the back of this, that will make it stick to the chocolate. Okay, so we can turn it. Can't see where it is, but something like that.
And your chocolate is at room temperature, correct?
Yep, room temp. There we go. And these are just the coating chocolate, the little discs.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it comes in that green color already. Yep. Okay, so then I wanted to kind of antique it a little bit. So I used this white. So it's, you usually need to shake it up because it kind of settles at the bottom. But it's bright white actually by Americolor. And it's where the gel colors are. And you just want to squeeze some in a container. And then take a brush, normally kind of a flattish kind of brush. Something like that. And then I'm going to take some of that. And you just go over, kind of back and forth like this. And then I also like to add a little bit of brown to it to kind of, I don't know, just give it a little bit more of a weathered look. So I've got a little bit of brown, and it's actually called brown, and it's a petal dust. And kind of get some of that on the brush too, especially where these ridges are. See how it makes it stand out a lot more? You can kind of go back and forth. Like if you get it too dark, you can add a little bit more white. You could also use, if it gets to be too much on the brush, then just wash your brush out and start with a clean brush so you get more white on it. But you would just continue to do the whole piece, and then we would want to go ahead and fill this in. Now, you can put like a cupcake on top if you want. You could even, in the basket inside, if you do it hollow, you could put, candy inside if you wanted to. There's so many different things you can do with it. But then you want to do is put some icing on the top. So if this was a cupcake here, then you'd want to just go ahead and put buttercream up here. I just used royal icing so it would kind of stay hard. And then you want to fill it with some flowers like this. So for the different flowers, you want to do different ones. So I like to mix some fondant with some buttercream. That better? There we go. So the first one, I've got this mold right here. Very easy to use. I've also using some plunger cutters to again give some different textures. So just take your white fondant for this one, and if you make all these flowers ahead of time, then it'll go really, really fast when you're putting it all together. So you just want to pop all that in there, flex this out like so, and then get some plastic wrap like this, and then put your flowers on the plastic wrap, kind of give them some movement because that's how they're going to dry. For the plunger cutters, there's all sorts of different ones. Let me use this one that has 4. For the plunger cutters, you want to make sure that you have cornstarch down so that the fondant will actually slide. Okay, so if it slides like that, then it's good. And for this particular one, what you do is you cut it like that, and I use my thumb to kind of clean the edges. Press down and it makes a little imprint on it, and then pick it up and pop it out. And then it has the little design on it. And then what you do is you let it dry again so that they're cupped like this. And then after they're dry, you can go ahead and color them. I see a lot of people use these, but actually go like this and push down like right away. And so it's kind of, you have to do the little steps, okay, or it won't work the way you want it to. And they're really, really easy to use if you use them the right way. Okay, so that's how some of the different, so I've got a primrose one, which I use the primrose cutter like these, plunger cutters here. And then you want to I wanted it to be really bright and colorful, so I used a lot of different petal and luster dusts here. So the first one, a lot of times I'll like to almost make it look a little bit like a hydrangea, where the center is like green and then the blues or purples on the outside, but it's not really, these are just whatever they are. They're fantasy flowers, right? When you don't know what they are, they're fantasy flowers. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take a little of the green here, and I'll just pick one of these. I have one somewhere. Oh, here it is. Okay, and put just a tiny bit of green in the center, hardly any. And then you want to take whatever color, so I'll go ahead and take the purple. Notice how I put a little on the paper towel so it doesn't go on too dark. And then I brush from the outer edge inward. Okay, so from the outer edge inward, that way you get darker on the edges and lighter as you come in. Okay, like that, lighter as you come in. And then you have that. I did the same thing basically with the blue here. Okay, so that's a pastel blue that I used. I used ultra purple. Those are luster dust. The green that I used is actually petal dust, so it's a matte dusting powder. And I use cymbidium, but sometimes I use a lime, kind of a lighter green. The yellows and oranges I used on here. So again, just take your yellow in the center and get that on, and then go around the edges with your oranges. And then you have just kind of a nice bouquet. And then I wanted to add a filler, so that's where the royal icing comes in. So I actually have royal icing in a bag with a tip 103, which is a rose tip. And then I also have royal in a bag with a leaf tip of 352. This royal is a little bit of yellow and green mixed together, so it's just not one solid color. And so, like in here where I need to cover this, so I can go ahead and squeeze. This is a little stiff. Hopefully the bag won't break. But that'll be entertaining for you guys if the bag breaks, right? So it's got the different like colors in there. Yeah, I should have pinned that down. And then you can go ahead and fill in with some of your flowers, like back here. So first you just cover that cupcake, and then you can go ahead and fill in.
What's the difference between the luster and pearl?
The luster and pearl are the same. They both have the sheen to them. Luster Dust is one company, Sterling Pearl is a different company. They just call them
Same thing, just different.
They're the same, yeah. Just like Elite Color and Petal Dust, they're the same. Yeah, it's just different companies. Okay, so then this one, the rose tip here, what I do is I hold it with the wide end here and the narrow end actually out. And I hold it and I squeeze and I kind of lift the tip and then put the tip back down. So it's kind of like doing a little bit of wisteria like that. And then you can fill in around it. So if I want to do it here, you have to move the angle of the bag to get it where you want it to be. See how it's basically just like little clusters of little flowers like that. And it's an easy filler to do. So, if you didn't make enough flowers, maybe you're going to have a lot more of these on a cake, right? Yeah. And then I thought it'd be cute if we actually put a sign in here, although this is royal icing, there's no way I'm going to get this in here. But it'd be cute if we had this kind of in. Maybe I can stick it out from behind. It should really go like here. How about if I use, what tool haven't I used?
You want to use that?
I can't use that on here. Let me see though. Okay, let me just make a hole in here.
Oh, the tracing wheels.
Huh?
The tracing wheels.
I think I used all of those. Which one did, yeah.
The PVC shutter.
Huh?
You haven't used that PVC?
I know, the PVC. I'm gonna actually break this so it will go down. There we go.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
There we go. Fill it in with some more leaves, especially over that flower that I broke. No one will ever know, right? And then I guess I'll just write in the black mom on here, and then this one's good. Okay, anyone see my black?
She took it.
I knew where it was before it cleaned up.
Okay.
Is it? Do you got bags on the other side over there? Should that?
Oh, that's probably it. No, that's not it. Okay, well, I guess I won't do that. We'll just imagine mom written on here. I'm sure I'll come across it in a minute. So I'll just move this one out of the way. So obviously you would do the back side of it too.
Yay, woo!
Yeah, right in your fur. So that's the candy mold that I used for the sign.
Susan, what tip number was that for the fantasy flower, the rose?
103, but you could use a 102, 103, 101. Just depends how big you want it to be.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use any of those. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is the apron. And I Just need a little space. Bring the apron on over. Okay. So this. There, everyone.
We like that.
You like it?
It's a
Okay.
little sexy though, isn't it? Just saying.
Moms can't be sexy. Right? Okay, so you can do it in whatever fabric design you want.
Thank you.
And it's just the whole idea of the shape. You're going to start with a quarter sheet cake. And I wonder why I'm losing bags, right? Throwing stuff all over the place. Okay, so starting with a quarter sheet again. And let me just throw some buttercream in here. Yes, you can put whatever filling you want. It doesn't matter. And I think the paper's still on here. And that gets a little chewy if you cut it with the paper on. Yeah, so you don't really want the paper on there. Unless they need more fiber. And you can go ahead and do that. Okay. Whoops. Whoops, that's never a good sign in cake decorating, is it? Whoops. Oh my.
And then you follow with, oh, I meant to do that.
Yeah. I meant to give all my spatulas away.
It's probably with your black.
Okay, so this is going to be where I'm going to use my knife.
You just wouldn't let it keep going, huh?
Not really what it's intended for, but it is one of my favorite tools. No, I wouldn't spread my eggs. But now I've used it. I can cheat. It's my store.
It's your demo, yeah.
Totally cheat. Yeah. Okay, so now I've got my cake there, and now I need to do some cutting. Okay, so I need to make this into this. Wow, I should have taken a class. Okay, what's that? On this stuff? Oh, it's everywhere. Oh, I won't fall. Well, maybe I will. Maybe I will.
It'll be on film if she does.
Yeah, it'll just be more entertaining for you, right?
Let me explain to you, girlfriend, you own the place, you do not get burpees.
That's right. Okay, so the halfway or like a little less, it's going to end up kind of being like this. So I like to take a bag and just kind of mark it up a little bit. Okay, and then it's going to actually come in from here and then come in a bit. So we're going to use this cake like here and here to extend this out a bit. Okay, so then from here, kind of come out like that. So maybe that's not totally perfect, but I have the idea now. Maybe the apron came from the secondhand store. I don't know. You know, Nordstrom rack where things are a little off. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on this board. What's it? Okay, so I'll just go ahead and center. Well, not really center. I like to angle it. Okay, so I will go ahead and take my knife and just cut, and then cut down this way. Yeah, no, I'm still gonna need it.
You do know that when it started being passed, there were 6 of them. And you thought you had them last.
I sent them over to get washed and didn't think that I needed them
Check
back.
that first.
Okay, and then what you can do is actually use these pieces, okay, for down here. So this, I'll actually move it like up a little bit and kind of take this off and even just take that corner just a little bit off. See how the skirt here, here, and then come up here. So this needs to come in. Wow, it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
That's so fast.
So then take this and pop that on, and then the other one. So that needs to go about there, right? Cut that. Okay, then cut this.
The girls got stuck.
Okay, and then there we go. So you've used most of the cake again, right? Okay, so on the edges here, I wanted to keep those pretty straight. So I don't really round them off too much, you know, on this, but I do just need to get that off. Okay, and see the sharp part right there? I just want to kind of get that so it kind of flows a little bit more, like so. Okay. All right, so it's always good to get those crumbs off first, but hey, we don't have time for that. So I'll just take some buttercream and pop it on. And use a real spatula this time. But I do get credit for that tool.
So when you're not using it as a spatula, you're
What do I use it for?
Yeah.
I use that for a lot of my cakes when I cut my dowels to stack cakes, and when I do a lot of my, you know, dimensional cakes, I use it to cut either PVC or dowels. So I always have that with me.
The cake you have up here, the encyclopedia graduation cake,
Yeah,
is that with a PVC pipe?
I think I did put one in there.
Rather than a dowel, is it a wooden dowel or?
Yeah, no, one PVC because of how tall and skinny it is.
Sure.
You can use dowels, but it's not as sturdy.
And do you use what, like a half-inch PVC?
Mhm. Yeah, whenever I use PVC, the majority of the time it's half inch. Okay, so then here, on the sides there, you can see that it's fondant. So I just need to basically cover this. And then I'm not gonna do like this entire cake on the sides and everything since, you know, we have that one done, because that would be boring for me.
Nothing to do.
Okay, so once you get that on like that, then you can come back with this straight edge and come around, get that excess off. And then come in like from the top, the edges in. Okay, and then just kind of clean up the board. Now, this is another one that, see how I finished that off with that board there? Those are actually edible image prints that I use. So you can, you know, say there isn't the paper that you want to use. You can always use something like that. I use the Icing Images iDesigns program, and they have a whole bunch that you can choose from. And you can't tell from there, but when you get up here, it's actually a shimmer paper. So it has a sheen to it. And then I just picked one of their designs because they have a whole program that you can pick the designs. And then after you pick them, you can also choose how large you want the design, which is really cool. So that I could do the stripes like have a whole bunch of real thin ones, or I could put, you know, more together. And I've got 4 pieces on there, and then I used a little bit of piping gel to attach them to the cake board.
And what was the program again?
It's called, the company's Icing Images, and the thing that they use, you can buy the papers from them. Their papers are really good. iDesigns, which is all, it's on their website. Okay, so I just need to clean this up a little bit so I can show you how to get the trim on first. What I usually do is the sides first, and then I did the top. Because as you can see, most of that has the black trim around it, and that's how I kind of covered up, you know, between the side pieces and then the other piece. So I tried to do this. I got this actually in, I think, 2 pieces. Like one from here all the way over to like here, and then the other one. I'm just going to do a small portion, like the front, so you can see it. It's good if there's no cake crumbs in it. Okay, so you basically want more of a long strip. And you don't want it to be too thin, because then it won't stand up very well. So you need a long table. And just kind of roll it out. Alright, and then what I usually will do is kind of measure the cake. I will take a pizza cutter and cut one straight line, like this on the bottom. Kind of straight line. And I'll usually cut a straight line like here, and now I'll measure the cake. It's about, this one's taller than that one. This is about 3 inches. So about 3 inches. I'll cut this a little higher than 3 inches. Cut off that part that I just messed up. And then what you want to do is just bring it like this in pieces. I'll just do like one big piece here. And bring it on. Is it touching the board?
Yeah, right there, it's not,
It's not, okay.
it almost is, but not quite.
So I can just very gently bring it down with my fingers like that. And then this is where I like to use one of the palette knives again and kind of get any of that extra buttercream out. And then kind of just tuck that. See how that cleans that up? What's that? Oh, it's still sticking up right here. Better. Okay, and then for the top part, what you do is you come back and you'll cut some of this off. And you can kind of just bring that in a bit. This is a little higher here, so I'll cut that off. Okay. Ta-da! All right, so you would do that obviously all the way around, and then for the part on top, the apron here actually has some creases in it. So to do that, what I did is I took some buttercream in a bag, and you just want to like squeeze, let it build up, and then bring it down. Like that. And then let me take one of the smaller spatulas. And I'll usually kind of blend this a little bit, just so it's not like a sharp. See, I'm just going on the edge and bringing it down. Here, edge, bring it down. So you would do a few more of these, you know, several places around. Here, here, here. And then we would be ready to go ahead and do the covering on it. Okay, so I used white fondant still and a texture mat. So the texture mat is one of the Autumn Carpenter out of the fabric set. Some of you may already have it. And I just kind of liked it. There's, I don't know, I just kind of wanted that French kind of stuff is real in right now too. Okay, so you need to roll out a good sized piece. I did this actually in 2 pieces. I did one here and then I did one down here. Okay. The only thing that gets a little tricky is that when you have to kind of do the pattern, you know, several times, keep the pattern going, flowing.
Are you allowed to use that rolling pin? It's not on your tool list.
Should be, huh? My baby roller. Okay, so once you have your fondant rolled out, then you take your mat, and this usually doesn't really roll that well, so a lot of times I'll just slide this, and I try not to slide it on the edge of the plastic. That way what I can do is actually move it over and kind of line it up with the other one. But again, I don't go over like that area too much. And there you go. So that's how you would continue it. And then you would go ahead, like, so this piece, I'll go ahead and just like place it on here. Okay, I can do this a little bit. I don't want to do it too much because I don't want to get rid of that design, right? Then you come around the edges and you just trim it.
Again, not on your tool list. Need to expand that list.
Yvonne, you getting that?
In my notes.
Okay, like that. So you'd go ahead and do the other piece too. It's kind of weird at Doppler's apron, I don't know. I don't think Mom's gonna appreciate it.
That's what I thought. Check that anniversary in, never mind.
Okay, and then I use a sponge and some gel color. This is where you get messy. Okay, so I'll just take, this is the Luxe Black Shimmer. You can use regular black gel color too. And you want to just get some, like on just a little bit on your sponge. Okay, and this is why it's a little bit smudged. I mean, you can actually take your time and go over like the whole thing with a paintbrush, but I don't have time for that. So what I do is I just try to very gently just get the tops, like so. And then it goes a lot faster, right? It's just you do get a little bit of that smudged look in certain areas, but it's a lot faster than taking the paintbrush, right? So that's if you want that, you know, the two-tone like that. So you just continue.
So if you were in competition, would you do this or would you
No.
take the brush?
I would take a brush. I would do something else. There's no way. No.
Would you use a regular brush or like a fan brush?
I would use like a flat, not a fan. I would use a flat brush, like one of, like this kind of flat brush, like that. Okay, so you get the idea on that. I don't want to keep going because I'll continue to get my hands all dirty. Okay, so that, and then you can go ahead and do, you know, your fun little designs and stuff like that. So for the pockets here, we'll go ahead and take some of our black. And then I'm just rolling it out. I did like to give the pockets some movement so they weren't totally flat. You can always put stuff in them too, like there's little candy molds that are little spatulas and things like that, and that would be kind of cute. I was even thinking of putting like a flower, like one pink flower coming out over it or something, just to give it just a little bit something else. So for this, we're just gonna roll this. Okay, and then I did all this in one piece, even though it looks like it might be, actually I did it in 3 pieces. But I should really just do it in one. See that? You're always just thinking of new ways to do things, right? It's like, hello, what was I thinking? Okay, so you can pop this on like so. And then you can actually lift some of these up a little. Okay, and then go back over with the tracing wheel like this and just do the stitching. So you just do the bottom and the sides and then up the 2 pockets there, like so. Okay, and then I used one of these pink molds, or the New York cake molds. This is one of their newest ones. This looks really cool too if you do it in white and pearl dust it. It looks like all little pearls. And then there's a little bit of an edging on there. If you paint that little edge gold, it's a really pretty mold. So you just will stick this in here. This one, sometimes I like to put this one in the freezer so I get all the detail. We don't have time for that. We really don't have time for much, do we? Okay, so then flex the mold to get it out so you're not stretching the bow too much. Clean it up a little. That can go on right there. And sometimes I like to, you know, curve it a little bit. Again, give it more movement instead of just putting it totally flat. And then for the trim, there's different things you can use. I like to use the lace pieces here. So this is a 2-piece mold, which makes things easier for you. So what you do with this is first you need to roll it out into a strip. Okay, like this. And again, this cake, I mean, this could be all done in buttercream too if you don't want to do the fondant. You know, it just takes you more time to do your, you know, you could do a piping design on it instead of. So I roll this out a little bit first. Then I'll take it and place it on top of my mold. Okay, kind of make sure you can kind of see it a little where it goes in. And then take your other piece and place it on top. And then you want to just roll back and forth. And that helps to cut it. So then what you do is you come around the edge like this. See how I just kind of pull that away? But notice how I'm holding on to these pieces so it doesn't, you know, pull that up.
Can you also use that mold for like sugar?
You can, yes. You can use this mold for sugar. You can use it for modeling chocolate, sugar, regular chocolate, deco gel. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm coming back with my finger and just cleaning it up so that I don't have any edges sticking over any of the fondant. I find it easier to do it this way. Some people like to take a palette knife and kind of go across, but I find that you still end up doing this, so it's kind of a waste of time. Then you want to flex the mold, okay? So you let the mold do the work. See how I flex that and very gently bring this out? Okay, so that's what I don't want to do. See how I pulled it at the end? I did that for your benefit.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and cut that off because I am a team player. Kidding. So a little water would go down here. And then on this one, I like to have it a little here and then just to kind of hang down a little bit. And that's what will cover up your seam, right? Cute, like that. And then I wanted to mix it up a little bit in here. I used the same mold, that one all the way down here, and then I used it here and here. But I didn't want to use it everywhere because I felt like that was a little bit too much. So for the other part, I just used a strip. So you know, would measure out your strips and then put it on the edge like that and kind of bend it a little bit so it just goes over the edge just a tiny bit. And then you go back with your little stitching wheel and just do a little bit of the stitching right in there, like that. Okay, then the middle one there, obviously I use the same bow mold. The middle one is done the same way. I used this one right here or in here just to give a little bit different detail. And then on the top here, because I have the strap part, so I basically did the straps like this. I had it come from here all the way kind of down and stuff and then back up. And then I just used a small mold to do little buttons. So like this, just press this one in. And then flex it out and put those right over there to cover that. And it adds a little bit of detail. Now for the whole thing, there's a little sheen on the black. I actually went ahead and took a paintbrush and I painted a little bit of this black sheen on here. It's a shimmer airbrush color that's black. So I didn't paint it like on the pocket because I wanted that more matte. I did paint it like on here on the bow and then some of this. And it also cleaned up a little bit of the cornstarch that I had on my hands. Then I used the tappets for the letters. That's the funky style tappet set. And that's it. Right? You can just whip it up. Right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah! Yeah! Woo! Okay. Next, Father's Day. Father's Day, we are doing cookies. And we're doing a toolbox. Rose's idea. Good idea, though. Very good idea. Okay. Where am I gonna throw this?
Over this way?
Actually, can you put it on that table back there? Oh, and I should send that other one over there, but I'll send it later, the other one.
She's gonna put that in her purse, watch her.
Why do you think she sat there? She knows. Those are the good spots. Get rid of some of this
Where are those
messy
most
stuff.
made by? The two pink
The
ones?
pink ones are by New York Cake. Yeah, New York Cake. Okay, cookies. All right, we have partial made cookie box right here. Okay, for Dad. And we need all of this junk. And some of the cookies. Okay, we'll start with the box. I'll leave the cookies back here. Okay, so we're looking around the store. I think Rose actually saw this one. This is actually a placard cookie in my shabby chic collection. She said that's perfect for the end of a toolbox. Okay, and I'm also still going to make like a little window box out of this same cutter too. So that could be another Mother's Day thing. So that's what it was originally designed for. But what we did is we used that first, and then had to just kind of determine what size, box you wanted it to be and what size pieces. So on this one, oh, by the way, is this your ruler?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll use your ruler.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, been missing it?
Yep.
Okay, well, here it is. Okay, so the bottom piece, the inside piece, is about 3 inches. This one's slightly over because when it baked up a little bit. And then it's by 9 inches, 3 by 9. And then these have to be a little bit longer, so that's 10 inches. And I think it's still by 3. Because you want this to fit the inside on the bottom like that. And then these to actually come out. And I wanted it so that these side pieces would sit up like against here, so that you wouldn't see the edge of the cookie. Okay, so for the bottom one, I used the, well actually for most of the textures, I used the Autumn Carpenter Manly. She's got a Manly set of texture sheets, has 6 different sheets in it. So this one kind of looks like the leather stuff that's inside the tool chest, or you can just use it for any kind of a leather. So I used that here on the bottom. Okay, I'll show you how I attach the fondant to the cookies in a second, but that's what's on that cookie there. I went ahead and I used white chocolate to basically stick all of this together as my glue, which I'll be using again here in a second, as soon as I heat it up. And then I used this texture mat right here for the diamond plate. Okay. So I actually did the diamond plate. I did it in gray fondant. Used the same cutter to cut it out. Used one of the round Makin's tools to cut out the center, because that's what she used in the cookie, to cut out that center piece. And then I went and painted it with some silver luster dust after. So it's easier if you start with gray fondant rather than white, because then you don't have to use as much luster. You don't have to paint as much. It covers it in a better piece. So that one's going to go there. I've got my other red one for the back. And then I also used for the board, there's a wood one in here, wood grain. And I used that on this board down here at the bottom. And you can see by actually using like all the coloring and stuff, it really makes some of those pieces stand out. See there? Okay, well you can see when you come up. When you come up later. Okay, so for that, for the bottom, I just used some white fondant, and I'll just do a tiny little piece just so you can see the coloring. So I usually will try to roll out my fondant as flat and even as I can before I'll use one of the texture sheets. That way I get more of an even texture. And then I'll take this and I'll place it over the top. I'm going to do one that has a little wood knot. And again, since it's plastic, I'll just kind of slide it over like that and then pick it up. Well, you can actually do the design sticking up or down, and I actually prefer it down, and I just did it up. Again, just to show you the difference. Kidding. But easy fix, see? I didn't even have to re-roll it. All right, so I've got the piece right there. Then, so this whole board was done with white. Okay, so I had all the white on there first. Then I came in, I took espresso, and I also took brown, and these are both petal dust. So that means they're matte dusting powders. And I'll start with a new little container here. Okay, so I then just take a brush, so this I think is the one I used. And I will just take, you can use alcohol on this, doesn't matter, I'm just using water. The alcohol just dries faster. Okay. So I'll take a little of the espresso and kind of drop it in there. And a lot of times I'll just take, see there's very little water in here, very little water. And I'll just kind of go across it, and then every once in a while I'll take some of the black, or the brown, it ends up looking kind of black. And then I'll kind of brush across it, kind of here and there. And that's how you get that look. So have your brush kind of angled down a little bit like this, and kind of go over it like that. And you'll get like that look, okay? You gotta have a little bit more black on, or brown on that. See, now the streaks are a little bit more like the ones on the board. Okay, and it's just a different color because when it dries, it'll dry a little bit lighter. Okay, so that's a cool way to do it. Wood, that's just like, you know, a little bit different wood. It's different than what you normally see. Change it up a bit, right? Have everything the same. That's right. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and take my red, and we will cover the side here of this box with that attached. Let me kind of heat up this chocolate at the same time. Who is in charge of the chocolate?
I'm in charge of the store, and I told you guys I don't want to be sitting in here not to purchase it because you were going to need something from the other demo. And what did she just say to me? I need that.
At least you're over at the store this time, right? Oh, that's funny. I thought Mom was there. No, Mom's standing right next to you.
Oh, she thought I was there. She said take pictures for Facebook, so that's what I was doing. And then she said,
Oh, and then she
"You're not in the
ran
store?"
out.
No, I'm doing what you told me to do for once.
Okay, so you can either use water or you can use shortening to attach this to the cookie. I'm going to use shortening. So I flip the fondant over and put a little bit of shortening on the back of the fondant. Okay, and then bring the whole piece, place it over the top, and smooth it out. And go over the edge on basically like the top and the sides, and you don't have to worry about the bottom. I can actually cut that off, because sometimes if the fondant's actually down at the bottom, it'll kind of tear here when I'm sticking it together. So it's better if there's no fondant underneath here. And then on the sides, I just need to kind of trim that. Okay, just see if I can kind of fix that where I bluebird over there. There we go. Okay, so pick that up. That'll be okay because we're going to put the silver on top. Like that. And then this piece would be ready to attach. See if we've got that chocolate ready. Like how I always say, heat your chocolate at like 15-20-minute intervals, but I go ahead and, you know, set it on for like it. Oh yeah. Oops. We just move some of these over, and you start smelling burnt chocolate. You know why? Scott, you know about burnt chocolate, right? Yeah. I might have burnt it once or twice while he was taking before. Okay, so I'm just kind of stirring it up, and then I'm going to place it in a bag because it'll be easier to use that way. I can do this without dropping it.
It's fine.
Okay, so I guess I don't need to cut a hole in the bottom. Right? Get that out of the way. Okay, so let me turn this. So I'll go ahead and I'll put some chocolate down here at the bottom. And a little bit up the side. And actually it needs to go on this side. And grab the piece. To go right there. So there's actually a little bit of a gap in here on the inside. So what I'm going to do there is actually fill that in with chocolate. Sorry, I can't move it right now and show you, but trust me, it's there. So I'm filling that gap with some chocolate. And then just when you put tools and stuff in there, make sure you cover it. Okay, so we'll just hold this for 20-30 minutes. I'll just use a little cold spray. If you just get something to pop up against it, you don't have to use the cold spray, but if you're in a hurry, it's kind of nice. And I think I should put a tiny bit more in here. It's fine. Woo! Woo! All right. Good time. And then we'll put this one on the bottom. Okay, so a little bit more chocolate. Hopefully I don't break it when I put this in. It's actually good to do these and then put this back one on. Okay, so since I didn't do that, you know what I would do though? So this is what happens when you screw up. Okay, I want to show you that. Is that you would just go ahead and cut it down. All right, because I don't want to move that other piece. So if I just take a, my X-Acto knife, if I can find it.
PVC cutter?
Yeah, the PVC cutter. Okay. X-Acto knife is somewhere. It's probably on one of those other trays.
You had it out earlier.
Yeah, I thought so too.
You used it for the basket, let's find it.
Let's see if I can use the palette knife. So if I'm just cutting the cookie down a little to fit that in there.
Not trying to sit home because you're a professional.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, if it happens to you guys, I don't know how you're going to fix it. Okay,
What's
so
your
see?
number?
Yeah.
1-800 don't call me.
For a price, I can get you that person also.
Okay, so once that's kind of in there, put a little bit more chocolate in. And a little bit more color. Okay. All right, so for the top, they usually have that bar, you know, the handle that goes across the top. So for that, I'm just using a dowel. That's going to go in here like that, okay? But I'm going to cover it. So I'm going to make it look like metal, so I'll cover it in the gray.
And what did you use to cut your down?
Oh, yeah! Man! My PVC cutter, that's a mess. Darn it. Thank you.
You like that, see?
Yeah. So see, now it kind of counts because I would have used it. Right? No? Yeah, I think so. Anything else on that list?
It's your shop, so whatever goes.
My what?
It's your shop, so whatever you say goes.
That's right. Yeah, I kind of like the way that sounds.
And we like it.
Okay, so I just have a strip here. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put some shortening on the back. I'm not going to need it to be this big, but it's easier if I just go ahead and place it on the inside and then bring this up. Okay, like that, and then just trim it. Okay, like that. And then just go like this. And what I'm doing is actually I'll be taking some off both ends. Okay, so I'm smoothing it, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. But I'm also kind of thinning it out a little bit. So that's why you don't want to start with it too thin, or that won't be good. So go ahead and pull this down, take that off. And make sure it goes to the end and is covered. I think I'm actually going to put different color on the end, maybe black or something. Okay, and then we can go ahead and pop this in. And you can make that stick too with some chocolate. I'm just going to kind of leave it there. And then you'd paint that also. Okay, so that's that piece. Then we've got the front. What I did is I just used regular to do the letters. I didn't want to spend a lot of time making it look like the letters are wood. I just took regular plastic cutters like this, cut them out, and then let me just do one in this color right here. And then you just use your veining tools basically. So I did this. Okay, there's no center cutout unless you do it really thick on this. So you can just use like a round tip and just cut out the center like that. And then you can use your like knife and scriber tool. And I just drew a little line here and then kind of over here. Use the back of the tool and just poke in kind of like it's little rivets or something in there to hold that together. And then just drew some little lines like it's wood. And then I just painted over it with some of the color again for the wood. I just used the brown and I actually used chestnut too because it's a little bit lighter color. So that's how those were done on the front. Put that over there. As far as the tools and things, these are all the cutters that I used here. Maybe line them up in the front. Would you be able to get it if they're in the front? Why don't I do that? This one, you've got the drill here. The hard hat is a copper one. The cone, which is one of my favorite ones. That one there.
I was wondering what that was.
The cone.
Well, it was with the graduation stuff, so I can.
Oh, it was?
Or, I don't know, it was on something.
It's in the
Okay,
front.
that's
Yeah.
the sides pieces. And then let me grab the other tools. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're
I
kind
do
of
like
cool.
that, that is neat.
So I'll kind of put them next to the, and then I'll go over some of them. Okay, like that. Okay, so to finish off the trim and stuff, I went ahead and I used, this is, I don't know if there's a name for this, pyramid type. You see it on a lot of like rock cutting, not like a rock cake. What am I trying to think of? Kind of, you know?
Like the studs, the metal
Yeah,
studs.
the metal studs. Because I know we get cakes for those a lot. So I just roll it over the mold, and then I'm going to flip it over, flex the mold out. This is the easiest way to do it. And then actually take your pizza cutter, I should use a smaller one, and cut down the side.
Isn't that what you use for sewing?
It's a tracing wheel.
Yep, tracing wheel. Yep. But it's great for doing like cookies and things, and that's why I like the smaller one too that has the two ends, because you can really maneuver it around, especially when you're doing cookies and things that are smaller. Okay, so then, so I had started some of the trim there. So this one I can go ahead and place over here on the other side, and this was to kind of, basically kind of cover up the seam. So let's see if we can fill in that whole side. Okay, and then notice that the red piece is over here. That's actually done with the extruder again, so that it's a perfect, on the sides there, it comes in and see how it fills in here. Whereas the other side, well,
Not so much.
yeah, well, I should have done, if you do it all, you know, if you put it together first and then do it, it's just because I was saving some of it to show you. So then here, it still needs the red, like all the way around it and up and on top there. Okay, the tools, some of those, I basically use fondant on all of them. Let me show you maybe like the screwdriver. Most of them I started with silver first.
She'll put it in your purse.
Yeah? That's what I'm afraid of.
I just need to bring your bag now.
Okay, so the gray part, you don't want it to be, you don't need it to be too thick. You're going to use the same cutter, so just cut that out. I actually have real cookies for this part.
Ooh,
Ooh, real cookies. And then I would trim it right about here and just use this bottom part. Okay, a little water. And I just put a little water on the back. You could use shortening too, water or shortening. And then attach it.
You need to move your box because folks in your camera cannot see that. Just saying.
There. And then that one I did yellow, but I'll just use, there's some yellow in there. I'll just use one of the greens because I want to. Yeah, I like this green. Okay, so this, I want this to be a little bit thicker. And I'll show you why. So I'll go ahead and cut that. Trim it. Little water on the back. Okay, place it on there. There we go. And then use one of the veining tools and just draw that little line right in this area, because that's where it kind of goes in a bit on the regular, on our screwdriver. And then I use this tool right here. This is a, it's a cell stick. And it's for like rolling out gum paste and stuff. But if you take it like this and press it right in here and just press and kind of roll to the right and to the left, lift it up, move it over, push down, roll to the right and to the left, it makes kind of those perfect little grooves. You know how the screwdrivers have those grooves and stuff? And then what I did is I painted the silver part with the silver dust. And then I took a little bit of the brown because I didn't want them to be all, you know, perfect. I wanted it to give it more color. So I used a little of the brown in here and hardly any on the brush, mostly water, inside the grooves, and see how it makes them stand out more than this. You know, so color is kind of important there to give your items a little different color. For this one here, to do some of these details, I like to use the knife and scriber tool here.
Again, you're going to need to move your box.
Whoops. There we go, thanks. And you're going to press like in here to get those little lines. This is a decorator tip for that little screw part there. This, I just use this tool in here just to make it look like the handle, make it a little different. The saw, basically, again, using this tool in each of these little grooves here, and then use it a couple more times here, one straight down. Okay, so it's so easy to do the detail with the fondant, you know, rather than piping. And then, you know how I did this, same as that. I just drew a line here, some little lines here, some little lines here. And this one, there wasn't really anything to it. The cookie cutter obviously doesn't have the hole in it. Rose used one of the Macon's round cutter that she used for here to make that hole. And then this one's kind of fun, the little. So for this one, there, I drew lines here because that's the part that usually twists on a drill to tighten and stuff. This is usually where the drill bit goes, so I took the back end of this tool just like that and I pushed it in there so it looked like it had a little bit of an opening. Added a little black fondant here and then just did a little bit of the color. This one here, I said is one of my favorite ones. I think it needs a face on it though. It is cute. Construction's huge for kids' parties and stuff too. So orange fondant on first. Use your veining tool just to draw the circular line here. If that's too difficult, you know, for you to kind of get it a nice circle, you can use a round cutter and just press in at the side like that, so that you have your perfect circle. Then I just put some white strips on it. This was a cord. Again, you can use the extruder to get a perfect cord, flatten it, place it on. And then I used a little bit of the dusting powders just to highlight some of the areas on the side and on the bottom. The other one is the construction hat. Again, really easy because all it is using veining tool. And you could always put, I didn't have, like those letters were a little too big. I think I could have used the tablets, but I'm not sure why. I think I just went on to something else. But you could write Dad here, D-A-D, down there like that.
You have the other tool, the one that presses in.
Yeah, I think I do have some of the PMEs. Some of you guys have those that
Yeah,
press.
it's really
They actually, they're
nice.
stamps that press in and they're smaller. And so you could write, you know, Dad on there, or you can pipe it with royal icing too. But this is just doing lines here, and then a little bit of black because that's that little strap thing that holds on. And then basically, you know, doing the coloring and then adding all this stuff in here. You want to, oh, it's already. Just give it a second. And we'll just use that as our glue. And then on the sides here, I should probably just kind of.
I don't know what my ring's supposed to be at. She's next door, so it's 125.
Okay. So like we could put this on the end like that, on each end, because then it brings another color, you know, to your eye and stuff. And then we can glue some stuff on. Okay, so I thought, this is where it's hard because I like to look at it from the front, but I can't. So I was thinking maybe like this to give it some color, maybe over here. So wherever it's going to sit, you want a little bit of chocolate. And if I wanted to get, because I want it to stay like that. Oh, there. But sometimes you can put a little bit of fondant, like a little tiny bit behind it, just to prop it where you want it to stay. And this is kind of big, so I thought we'd put this probably over here. And then some of these would be kind of leaning. You have to kind of use the bar and stuff to your advantage. Some you can just stick in here, though.
Now, would you put any type of filler in the bottom of it?
You could.
You can if you want.
Like a shred that out or whatever?
I wouldn't, if I did something, it would probably be edible. One thing I was thinking about doing was actually doing maybe like, you could fit 3 jumbo-sized cupcakes in here. And then you could put, I have a couple candy molds that are like nuts and bolts. You could ice the top and then put the nuts and bolts like they're the separate little things
Cute idea.
in there. And then it lifts it up and then you can stick some of the tools, you know,
I think that's why
coming
you're
out.
professional. What do you think?
Could you also put them on sticks and then stick them in the cupcakes?
Yeah, you could do that too. That's a good idea too. Yeah, sticking them up. I'd probably just end up using I don't want to stick them on because I think I want to rearrange it, and then later, you know, we'll have this in the store and I'll totally finish it off. But I'll, you know, use the chocolate again as glue and just kind of stick it all around. But let me just kind of move it
Good
up
sure let
here.
that gentleman know when he brought it up, right? Pirate fella.
The pirate. So then,
Oh, excellent.
isn't it neat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Or
little
even if
different.
you
Yeah.
have someone in the
Good idea, Rose. Okay, so we have another raffle. We're gonna give away some of the tools.